Welcome to House Lex Estate. Today we're doing a deep dive into Tupac Shakur, looking through the lens of Michael Eric Dyson's book, Holler If You Hear Me.
Yeah, it's a really insightful look. Dyson doesn't just, tell the story.
Right. It's more about understanding the layers, the forces that shaped him, his mother, the whole hip-hop scene, social issues.
Exactly. And Dyson really tackles the contradictions, the complexities. He doesn't shy away from them.
So our goal here is to kind of pull out the key insights from Dyson, give you a more nuanced picture of Tupac.
And why he still resonates so much today. It's about unpacking that enduring presence.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, his roots. Dyson spends a lot of time on Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur.
And for good reason. Her story is pretty foundational. Being a Black Panther, that's huge.
Dyson highlights her strength, right? Being part of the New York 21, facing those serious charges.
And then choosing to represent herself in court.
And winning acquittal. That experience, that fight, must have left a huge mark.
Oh, absolutely. That was a direct inheritance for Tupac. That spirit of resistance, that understanding of the system.
And Dyson also goes back further to her childhood in Lumberton, North Carolina.
Yeah, painting this picture of deep racial conflict, clan curfews.
But also resistance, like the local Indian community fighting back. It shows where her resilience came from.
So you see this journey from the Jim Crow South, then to New York, getting involved in street culture, like the Disciple Debs.
It all fed into this, unique perspective she passed on.
But Dyson keeps it real. He also covers her later struggles with crack cocaine addiction.
Which obviously had a huge impact. Instability, homelessness for Tupac and his sister.
Yeah, and Dyson includes Tupac's own memories, which apparently differed sometimes about when exactly it started.
That 9-page letter Tupac wrote her, that really stands out.
It does. It shows him grappling with the pain, but also trying to acknowledge her recovery. It wasn't simple forgiveness.
He demanded honesty, even as she was recovering. That says a lot about the wound, the trust issues.
Right. And Dyson makes it clear, Afeni understood why Tupac felt that way. She validated his pain.
Then there's his father, Billy Garland, mostly absent early on.
Yeah, Dyson notes he wasn't consistently around until Tupac was older. That absence likely shaped things too. Maybe that search for male figures.
But it wasn't all struggle and politics. Dyson also points to his artistic side early on.
Definitely. The arts in Harlem, Baltimore School for Performing Arts, he had that creative spark from young.
And even though he dropped out of high school, he was a reader, voracious reader.
Which shows that intellectual curiosity was always there.
Which brings us to Leila Steinberg, an early mentor figure.
Yeah, Dyson presents her that way. She saw his talent, his intellect really early.
And understood the weight he carried, even as a kid.
Exactly, that kind of forced maturity he had.
Okay, let's shift focus to Tupac the artist. Central figure in rap, hugely influential, but controversial.
And Dyson really unpacks this whole concept of the real.
What does he say about that pressure for authenticity?
Well, Dyson argues it was immense, especially in hip-hop then. This need to prove you were authentic, often through a kind of tough street persona.
And Tupac was deeply invested in being seen as real.
Yeah, and Dyson suggests that pursuit really shaped his art, his life, sometimes negatively.
You can't talk about his art without the East Coast, West Coast beef either.
Right, and Dyson looks at Tupac's part and how that started, citing his ingenious fury, his public disputes.
So it wasn't just personal fights, but something bigger in hip-hop.
Dyson frames it that way, yeah. A tragic escalation, and Tupac's personality definitely fanned the flames.
Another big idea, thug life. It's almost his brand, but Dyson says it meant more to Tupac.
Exactly, not just crime or violence. For Tupac, it was about, not being silenced, handling your responsibilities.
And Dyson includes Big Psych's definition, too.
Yeah, defining thugs as the marginalized, the nobodies, and outlaw as just being black or minority. It reframes it.
So thug life becomes a response to being pushed to the edges, an identity.
Right. And Dyson even traces the word thug itself back, potentially to the Thuggee in India.
Really? How did it get here?
Through various routes, maybe black newspapers, the Caribbean. It adds this whole historical layer.
Suggesting the word itself carries a history of oppression, maybe resistance?
That's the idea. And that likely resonated with how Tupac saw himself and his community. Dyson's good at bringing in that kind of context.
He also looks at the generational gap, right? How older black folks saw Tupac's music.
Yeah, sometimes finding it offensive, a negative image, that classic tension between generations in black culture.
Dyson acknowledges the criticisms, the violence, the misogyny in his work, and hip-hop generally.
He does. But he also notes Tupac sometimes reflected on those things himself and points out the double standards in media coverage, how black artists were treated differently.
Which connects to Tupac saying, America is the biggest gang in the world.
Right. Dyson uses that to show how Tupac linked personal stuff to bigger political critiques. The violence in his lyrics often mirrored the violence he saw around him.
But there was a tension there, wasn't there, between his revolutionary roots and embracing this thug passion, as some called it.
Definitely. Dyson brings in people like Karen Lee and Stanley Crouch who point that out.
Crouch connects it to the Panthers, even The Godfather.
Yeah, suggesting this kind of confused revolutionary gangsterism. He felt adopting that street persona, maybe influenced by thinkers like Fanon, had a complicated effect on the culture.
Okay, let's talk about the contradictions, the vulnerability. Dyson shows a softer side.
Yeah, beyond the hard image, he talks about Tupac's sensitivity. Leila Steinberg remembered him crying.
It makes him more human. Maxine Waters also mentioned his vulnerability.
It shows there was more going on beneath the surface, you know?
And his capacity for love seemed huge, but Dyson suggests feeling betrayed really fueled his anger.
Especially later on, those conflicts with Biggie, Puff. Dyson hints that perceived betrayals played a big role in that whole East Coast, West Coast thing escalating.
You also get a sense of him being self-destructive in that last year.
Yeah, the pressure must have been immense. Fame, legal issues, scrutiny, maybe feeling trapped.
Dyson even mentions the pervasiveness of death in the lives of young black men then.
Right, the sort of normalization of funerals. Even this disturbing idea of death envy. It's a grim picture.
Which leads into Tupac becoming this ghetto saint figure after his death.
Yeah, Dyson analyzes that using ideas of martyrdom. How people embodied his struggle, identified with him, saw him as a substitute, and elevated him after he was gone.
And people were fascinated by him physically, even when he was alive.
Right. Sean Chapman's stories about his charisma, how he could connect with anyone, it counters that one-dimensional thug image.
Cassandra Butcher's story, too, about the photo shoot showing his complexity.
Exactly. Different sides of him, sometimes in the same moment.
Okay, finally, Dyson looks at the cost of that persona, the legal troubles.
And he lists them out. The shooting of the off-duty cops, assault charges, the sexual assault conviction. It's a lot.
And the shooting at Quad Studios during the trial. Just a volatile time.
Incredibly dangerous environment surrounding him.
Karen Lee's account of his reaction to the sentencing in the sex assault case. That's powerful.
Yeah, feeling injustice, but also apologizing to his friend, Man, for the trouble it caused him. Shows some self-awareness there.
Dyson includes Jada Pinkett Smith's view, too, about Tupac regretting not protecting Ayanna Jackson.
Hinting at maybe a deeper ethical conflict within him about it all.
And that core tension,
Yeah.
wanting to be a poet, an actor, versus the gangsta image he built.
John Singleton thought he kind of crafted that image for the industry, but then got trapped in it.
Dr. Dre just said he liked to stir up stuff.
Adds another angle, doesn't it? This persona he created.
Ultimately, Dyson suggests trying to live the life he rapped about blurred the lines between art and reality with devastating results.
Yeah. But then he ends that section with that anecdote.
The young man who said Tupac's music saved his life.
Right, by acknowledging his hopelessness. It just shows the profound contradictory impact he had.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Dyson's book, it's clear Tupac was just incredibly complex. No easy answers.
Absolutely. Dyson forces you to look beyond the simple narratives, see the radical upbringing, the artistic drive, the vulnerabilities, the landscape he navigated, all of it.
He pushes you past judgment to think about race, identity, authenticity, the pressures on young black artists, pressures that still exist.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. How do those pressures, those contradictions Tupac faced still play out today in culture, in the lives of artists now?
Something to think about.
And if you found this useful and want more explorations like this, please do subscribe to House Lex Estate. We'll be back with more.